This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories. And welcome to my review of the Marvels. And this is the most recent MCU film, so if you haven't watched it yet, I would highly recommend not watching this video because I will have spoilers. Because if you do care about that, there is. There's only one really big spoiler in this because, as you'll see, my opinion on this, before I go into spoilers, is this is just the most generic, non-origin story superhero movie I have. Well, even superhero movie, it's a superhero project I think I've ever seen. There's really nothing special about this. The movie, it's fine. It has a few kind of cringy moments, but really, besides that, there's nothing really incredible about it. But there's also nothing really terrible. The best way I could describe this is I think we've all seen it before in school. There's that one person who always does, the bare minimum for their work. And you can see that clearly either if you're a teacher, which I'm not, if you're grading it, or if you're a student while you're watching them present some kind of do some presentation or group project, or if you're that kid yourself. So no judgment on that, but that's what this just feels like. That's just the best way I could describe it. It's just doing all the bare minimum stuff, but really doing nothing special or really anything to make it stand out. And with me being kind of an overachiever when I do most things, I may occasionally do I really just don't want to do this and do bare minimum. But considering that when I did my film class, I was supposed to make like a 3 minute movie and make 3 minute movies and it regularly turned out for them to be maybe 10 minutes long at a minimum. I think that's a really good thing where it shows that that's what an end game is, where you go and overachieve, but this just feels like, as I said, it's just them doing the bare minimum. Now going into spoilers from this point on, I think that honestly it was having a few pretty bad moments. The entire planet where they're all singing was honestly just so stupid. It really just makes no sense since they could just go and just talk without singing because it's gonna, unless it's those specific songs where when you're listening to them you barely have any idea what they're saying, which this was not, then you should easily be able to just talk normally. It also made no sense how they can make clothes and stuff appear out of thin air, and honestly, that's just it was just stupid. It was nothing that really hurt my enjoyment of the movie, but it was just why? And then I don't really care. But that's just really it with this. It's as I said, generic. It's some other kind of bad moments. I think that the villain is also the generic kind of sympathetic villain, but when I don't remember her name, barely remember how she looks like, and literally just know that she wants to save her world, it is. it's just too generic. Like honestly, if you could ask me, to really describe her in like a few weeks, I probably wouldn't remember enough to do that because, as I said, this is just really generic. I think that the last thing that really wasn't, super incredible was just a few things with Miss Marvel, but these are problems I already had with the character in general, with her kind of doing all this like fan fiction stuff about real life people because I think that's just going too far and it's just a really creepy thing to do. Like obviously it's a lot of fun to do, a fan fiction or a fan story about, fictional characters or anything. And yeah, maybe, if you really want to, a little bit of realism and they might interact with, some real person. If you're a little more narcissistic, you might toss yourself in the story. If you're extremely narcissistic, you kind of take over the story and, well, there's a lot of those just self-insert fan fictions. But, that's all fine when it is fictional characters, but it's just so creepy, weird, and messed up when you do it based off of real people. And that's just a problem I've had with the character of Miss Marvel and really all forms of media because that is a part of her personality and it just is something that doesn't translate well into a story because it works in real life because clearly these are fictional characters and you just want to have your fun with them, but it just feels wrong to do this about people who really exist and just kind of trying to insert yourself into their lives. It just feels really creepy and wrong. And it just feels like it's just sending off the wrong message. I like that. That's just my problem with it. But let's go into some positives. I think that the chemistry between our three leads was honestly really great. I think they all played off of each other really well. I think that they did the conflict between Carol and Monica well, and definitely showing her guilt in inadvertently causing a civil war where I don't know how you destroy your son in a civil war, but I guess they did, and I don't know, that's just something I think that probably should have been explained better because again, I don't know how you destroy your son in a civil war unless you're going like Omni-Man level like crazy fight or like using some kind of like insane super weapon. Oh, also one other thing I wanted to mention is through this, I feel like there is some contradictions to the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, not specifically towards Ronan, but everything around him and what set him up for this film because it's heavily implied that the Kree Empire is still really strong at this point, and honestly, it also implies that, their people aren't at war with each other and that they were just kind of forced into peace with Xandar, which I guess could kind of go on with this if they were at war with each other, but it seems like that the Kree were united by that point and weren't facing some, insane crisis, although that could have been off screen, and be the reason why they were having to make this peace with the people of Xandar and just more of the radical extremists followed Ronin. I think there are ways for it to fit in, but I think that should have been explained better. I also think that that should have been explained if this was specifically Ronin's staff or not, because I'm pretty sure that was destroyed in Guardians of the Galaxy, but this does seem to have, like, the abilities of the Power Stone. So I think that also has to be explained because that was just really weird. And I think they also need to explain better how their plan was working and their well, stealing atmosphere and the power of the sun because I think that it makes sense to steal oceans and just suck them up and dump them out, but it makes less sense for atmosphere and especially for the power of a star to be transferred from one to another. I think that probably had to be explained a little bit better. And one other flaw that just popped into my head is also the fact that mainly Monica just knows kind of the solution to everything and is pretty easily able to figure it out. I don't really know. I'm not a screenwriter or anything, but I think that they probably could have had better ways to do this and not have it just be them knowing, like, the second something starts going wrong, how to, solve the problem or what the problem is specifically. But still, I think it was good going back to some of the positives. I think that there was just, as I said, nice chemistry between the cast. Samuel Jackson was fun in this, although I feel like this completely ignores the fact that Secret Invasion even happened, even though it seems pretty clear to set after, and that the peace talks mentioned in the finale were the ones that happened in this film. So honestly, I really have no idea about that. There's two big positives. Other stuff setting up for the future with them going to set up Young Avengers, with Miss Marvel going to visit Kate Bishop and try and set up a team. And then the post-credit scene, which goes into the ending where Monica gets trapped in an alternate universe, which looks like it is. I don't know. I think it's like the third timeline for the X-Men universe, maybe the fourth. Who knows with how much Deadpool's screwing with the timeline right now, and if Logan is considered the canonical endpoint to that, or an alternate timeline universe. So that's all something that either I or someone else, or well, someone else is definitely trying to figure it out, and I may try to figure out at a later point. But I think that it is pretty interesting to see her trapped in this X-Men universe where it seems, at a bare minimum, Beast from X-Men 3 is there, but again, I'm not sure which one this would be. Ideally, I think this would be the Days of Future Past timeline that doesn't lead to Logan. And this is, where everything kind of went right and they managed to find peace while. Because it seems like the Logan timeline isn't going to be the canonical endpoint for Wolverine with him being in Deadpool 3 next year, which seems to be the only MCU film we'll be getting next year unless they finish some film early. But that seems unlikely, and it's mainly due to the strikes. but also the fact that it seems that Captain America 4 is getting some extreme amount of reshoots because it apparently went really poorly in test screenings. But yeah, honestly, as I said, this film it's just generic. It has some good moments. It has some bad moments. I'd say that, they kind of neutralize each other out. And this is just a generic superhero movie. Again, as I said, this feels just like the person who did the bare minimum of the assignment, and because they met all the requirements, they get like a C, and you never really you never really think about it again. I think this is, I'm kind of pushing it for the time I'm talking about it, because honestly, I just wanted to look at some of the stuff and give kind of, a more in-depth review about it. But I easily could have just had this be it's generic, see you all in the next video. But I decided not to. I think that it is important to break this down, especially because there's going to be people on the two extremes talking about this. There's obviously going to be the group that is screaming that this is nothing but woke garbage on one side, and on the other side, there's going to be people who are going to be just completely praising this because they have to praise everything. Both standpoints are flawed because I think that you need to, have an opinion and not just stick to one side. And that's what I did. I went into this with an open mind. I didn't hate the movie, but I also didn't love it. I think that, as I said, this is just the most safe, generic film you're ever going to get from Marvel, or DC, or really anyone. But who knows? I could be proven wrong, and we could get something way more generic than this. One last thing I wanted to talk about that, honestly, I kind of have mixed feelings about, and that is the baby Flurkin scene where they're eating everyone. Oh, the scene is kind of funny. It's just one of those things where it's one of those scenarios where I think it could be explained way better instead of it being more like a comedic horror scene where they're saying, "Yeah, let the cats eat you." They could be like, "Hey, we need to evacuate everyone off the ship. We're gonna have to put you inside the Flurkins because there's not enough room to transport everyone, and they have like I don't know, an exterior dimension or whatever. You could just to hold you in to get you back to Earth, and then it's way less likely that people are gonna be freaking out, and it's all like if you played this scene specifically, you could make it look like they're trying to murder everyone on this station, but I was just saying that's a scene that I think they wanted it to be funny, but it's to save lives, so it could have been done a lot more practically. A lot of people were laughing. I was like, it's kind of funny, but I think this probably, should have been handled better in universe. Because although it is funny to watch, that is not the way have to go and evacuate people because someone might have had to stay up there and they might have died because they chose the weirdest option. Oh, last thing I wanted to mention, I almost completely forgot this also. They really easily could have stabbed the villain if one of them just snuck up on the villain and grabbed like a blade or something and cut her arm off to get the bangle back. So they could have easily did that. But yeah, honestly, besides that, this is really all I have to say. I honestly want to know what you think. Please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.